Gracias por asistir, a los que han podido venir. Voy a presentar a la profesora Gökaşar en español para algunos de ustedes, pero luego la presentación va a ser en inglés. Ella es profesora en la, no sé pronunciarlo bien, en la, how do you pronounce your university?
Boğaziçi.
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 En esa universidad en
Or Bosphorus. I mean, in English, it's Bosphorus.
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 Bosphorus. Así sí. Es como asistente profesor allí y bueno, tiene una experiencia larguísima. Sus tópicos de investigación son transporte inteligente, la ciencia de datos aplicada a ello, por ejemplo, gestión avanzada de transporte público, control en tiempo real del tráfico, movilidad inteligente, sobre todo ciencia de datos aplicada, ¿no? Data science applied to all that. But I mean, the main topic may be data science applied to ITS or...
Combine everything.
Yeah.
So we can also discuss in question and answer session.
Yeah, it's a broad thing. Y bueno, lo que quería decir es que esta presentación que tenemos hoy está financiada por un proyecto del Cabildo de Gran Canaria. Nosotros tenemos un proyecto bastante transversal en el CISEI, que es el que llamamos Ecoaprendemos. No le voy a aburrir con esto porque es mucho más interesante lo que viene después, pero tiene que ver con transformar un poco el profesorado universitario para llegar a adaptarnos a los cambios que se están dando con la sociedad de la información, las redes sociales, etc., adaptarnos un poco más a eso y utilizarlos a nuestro favor para formar mejor a los estudiantes, ¿no? Capacitarles en este mundo cambiante, etcétera, etcétera. Es un tema largo. La cuestión es que este proyecto es bastante amplio y transversal, incluye también tópicos de sostenibilidad, de movilidad, etc. Y por eso pudimos financiar la visita de esta profesora. Solo quería decir eso. Dentro de, si visitan, bueno, aquí tenían la página, si visitan esta página verán que tenemos bastante actividad. Aquí hay una lista de acciones que hemos realizado en los últimos 2 años, bueno, año y medio así. Y continuará, ¿no? Como dice en la película, ¿no? Y voy a quitar el sonido del portátil, perdón. Okay, that's it, I think. So maybe you can kind of... So, two slides. Close my stuff. So we may welcome her, right?
Thank you. Gracias. It's been my first time here, so it's a lovely place. First of all, I would like to... Oh. Well, I don't like to be, in this, thing. All right. So this is my first time here, and it's a very nice place. So I'm thankful for Mr. Hovey. Well, I'm from Civil Engineering Department, and I'll be talking about my city, some issues with my city, and then what I do as a research. So let's begin with some introductions. Well, I'm an associate professor in transportation field, and my department is civil engineering.
It's okay, stay there.
It's there? Okay. So, all right. So these are some of the slides from my work, my research work. So let me first introduce you my city. It's Istanbul. And it's a transcontinental city in Eurasia, so one part of the city in Europe, one part is in Asia, and we have this connecting bridge. And well, it has a population of approximately 15 million, and it's going up. We have lots of migration from different countries, and also we have this, birth rate, I guess. So, according to TomTom's historical database for 2016, it has the 6th highest traffic congestion level in the world, meaning that the research that we have is really focused on traffic because we are experiencing congestion all the time. So we don't have peak hours. So during off-peak hours, we again experience congestion, even late night hours, because we have this, nightlife of Istanbul, which is very, again, people are using their cars, which I'll also mention this model split, but we have so much congestion in the city. Istanbul's local public transportation system is a network of trams, funiculars, metro lines, buses, bus rapid transit, and ferries. So we have all these modes. And transportation system is operated by Istanbul Electricity Tramway and Tunnel General Management. So in short form, it's IETT. So IETT is the bus authority which governs these modes. So let me talk about the modes that we use in Istanbul. So we have 233 kilometers of rail network. For this city with large population, it's not enough. Currently, this number has increased, and they are planning to have 600 kilometers more by the year 2023. But it's going slow. The reason is that this city has a historical background. So when they're digging and they realize that there is this historical monuments, and that makes them stop this rail network. So it's taking time. So it should have been much more, but now we have this many kilometers. So we have 468 ferry and boat, because we have this the strait that has this ferry transport. We have 6,297 public and private buses. So by private buses, I mean they're operated by the private companies, but the authority is the government, IETT. So we have 6,460 minibuses, which is basically the solution for the transportation for the last mile, or some locations that we cannot have buses, so we have these minibuses around. So meaning that we have all these network, we have huge data, huge transport data. So we have 572 jeepneys and 66,269 shuttles. By shuttles, I mean these are personal services, personal shuttles. So private companies, government companies, government officials, they are all carried by these shuttles. I mean, they are taking them in the morning and getting them to their house using these shuttles. And we have 17,395 taxis, and there are a lot. And they are basically part of the result, part of the reason for congestion, because they are driving erratically like minibuses. So they just stop, in the middle of the road, or they're just using some wrong direction. So they're kind of a disruption to the traffic. But they're solving some of the traffic problems. And we have 135 kilometers of bicycle network. Well, it's a tradition. I mean, it's something of a like when you use bicycle, then you require the network, but we don't have so many people using these bicycles, therefore, it's something in progress. So in Istanbul, we have this model split, that is the modes that we use in Istanbul. So 78.15% of this transportation is done on land, and 18.07% by rail, and the last 3.77% by maritime. So you see the number of trips that is made each day using these modes. And you see the land transport is the highest. Having this, maritime, it should be, much more, but unfortunately we're not using that often. So if we take a look at the land transport, you see 11.98% is done by taxi, 26.44%, which is a high percentage, by minibuses, and we have these shuttles around 25%, and you see buses are almost 40% of this transportation. So, and total of, as you see, 11, almost 12 million trips per day. Meaning that we have huge data available. By the way, we have all these data archived in the authority. So let's take a look at the bus transport. So we have, as I said, some private companies. That's called OHO, and we have another private company, Bus Incorporated, and we have IETT, which is the government, buses. So basically, the operation of these buses are very interesting. I mean, if I had the time, I would just go into detail. Well, the IETT is both the operator and the authority. So they are giving the rules, and they also have to obey the rules. So it's kind of, interesting, and that's causing the problem. Most of the problems are due to this reason. So we have 4,220 drivers. Total personnel is 6,301, and bus numbers 3,070, which belongs to IETT. So meaning that, if you remember the previous slide, we have around 6,000 and something. So only 3,070 is belonging to IETT. And we have total bus stops of 12,951, and there are also shelter bus stops and also smart bus stops. And the fleet age is very young, it's 5.8, so we have comfortable buses. So they are clean and comfortable, and they care about the service quality. So meaning that they have all these tests, they have all these service quality procedures that make sure that we have a proper bus system. And there are bus depots, and there are 15 of them in Istanbul. In 2007, we were introduced this metro bus system. In this metro bus system, before there were no metro bus system, we had this congestion, and you see this congestion, and it was all around. So in all of these lanes, we had this congestion. It was taking us hours and hours to reach from one point to the other using this D100 highway. It's a freeway, and so what they did was they used this middle lane to have this metro bus system. And this metro bus system was built in 7 months. It was operated in 7 months. It was very fast, and people liked it, and they used it. And the reason was that, you see, it first started with 19 kilometers. There were only 15 stations. Then they used 10 stations and increased it also another 11.8 kilometers. And they added another one in 2010, and they completed in 2012. And total of 52 kilometers and 44 stations. So it's very convenient. The reason is that when you compare this metro bus system with other metro bus systems in the world, well, it's having the highest commercial speed, which is 38 kilometers per hour. Because this has its own separated lane, and it's only in mixed traffic when there is bridge crossing. So only at the bridge crossing there is this mixed traffic, but other than that, it's just going very fast with no interruption, therefore it's very fast. So, well, it's comfortable level, well, it's questionable. The reason is that depends, like what you want from comfort. So for me, comfort is if I know that I can reach my destination within, let's say, 10 minutes, and if I know that there will be no congestion, because as you see, this is an open roadway, but people are experiencing, you see, can you see like how the frustrated people are there here? Like this is empty, but they are experiencing congestion. I mean, I was one of them before using this. So the time when I'm using public transportation is the time when I'm going place that I've never been to, or where I cannot park my car. So this is very convenient in the sense that I know when I'm reaching there. So the comfort, for me, the definition of comfort is not just having maybe less crowded public transport, or having, let's say, place to sit. I don't care. I'm okay with squeezing, being squeezed with so many people, as long as I know that I can reach my appointment within 5 minutes. I'm happy with that. So for me, this is the issue, but for other people, well, they might be, if they're using this transportation every day, that is, if they are a commuter, then they are worried about their comfort level, and that, changes their models, meaning that they might just have a car, have a car and just do not use this Metrobus system. So the issue, from this explanation, you might just understand that, there's an issue of overcrowded buses, Metrobuses. So the frequency is very high, so you see, we have 15 seconds bus frequency during peak hours, and first BRT system to connect 2 continents, so this is its property, and we have 525 buses with 950,000 daily passengers. Sometimes it goes up to 1 million per day. So the fare for the Metrobus system is more expensive than the normal buses. Therefore, most of the revenue comes from Metrobus system. So IETT loves Metrobus. I mean, we love Metrobus system. We get most of the revenue, so they are making it, as perfect as possible. Okay. So we have this autonomous, vehicle trials. They did this, an old heritage tram car converted into this automated electric bus. And Mayor of Istanbul pointed the importance of electric bus transport vehicles, and they started with private cars. Well, they stated that private cars shouldn't be the priority. Well, they are planned to service in maybe airports initially, so that they can see how they perform. So at the beginning, I told you that I'm from Bosphorus University. So this is our view from very back in time. So I'll show you the current view as well. So we are a major research university in Istanbul. We have 4 faculties, 2 schools offering undergraduate degrees. We have 6 institutes offering graduate degrees. The language of instruction is English purely. Well, as you see from the picture, we are founded in 1863. It was an American college, and we still have the strong ties to American culture. Well, this is the building, the engineering building, by the way. Robert College School of Engineering was inaugurated in 1912, so it has a long history with civil engineering, mechanical engineering, and electrical engineering as the 3 areas of instruction. The undergraduate curriculum comprises courses striving to establish strong theoretical foundations, as well as courses that address most recent technological and managerial advances. Well, our graduates are proficient in both the technical and the social aspects of the engineering profession, and they pursue careers in diverse sectors, with many of them pursuing higher educational degrees. So my department, the Department of Civil Engineering program, aims to train the students to have theoretical background in basic sciences and engineering, and to be equipped with necessary technical skills. And they develop students' competency in reading, writing, and oral communication, which we value a lot. And also we are providing practical experience which will enable students to utilize and enhance their engineering knowledge. So we are promoting students self-discipline, self-assurance, and the ability to learn on their own. This is very important for us. And we encourage also teamwork and collaboration and development of the interpersonal skills. And we motivate students towards the contributing to the progress of science and technology with our courses. And we teach the importance of ethical behavior in social and professional life through all our courses. So in all our courses, we make sure that the students obey this ethical codes. Well, our graduates. So we produce graduates for the engineering and business communities who are observant, inquisitive, and open to new technologies for developing better solutions. So they are the real engineers for us. So produce graduates for engineering and business communities with integrity. This is very important for us. Determination, judgment, motivation, ability, and education to assume a leadership role to meet the demanding challenges of the society. Depending on this, questionnaires that we have at the end of the, graduation of these, students, most of them are in the, leadership roles. So most of our, graduates are in the leadership role in the industry, in education, anywhere. So I have a research lab. It's the Intelligent Transportation Systems Laboratory. So in the second part of this speech, I'll be talking about what we do in this lab. It was built in 2014, and I got a funding from the government, and I got an online connection with the transportation officials, the RTMSs, the traffic sensor data, the GPS data. So whatever data that they have are online, shared by this, laboratory. So the research areas we have includes intelligent transportation systems, which is my specialty area. So I did my master's and PhD in intelligent transportation systems. I implemented most of the modes of transportation, intelligent transportation systems like incident management, ramp metering, traffic safety work zone traffic management, advanced public transportation systems, and so on. So mostly I did real-time traffic control, and also I did traffic flow and modeling and simulation. My work, some of my work in smart and sustainable transportation systems, and also we use big data. Of course, we have this huge data, as I told you at the beginning. We have an access to such huge data, so we use big data to address challenges in mobility, safety, sustainability, and resilience in multimodal transportation systems. And also we analyze with this data and some questionnaires the travel behavior. So some of the work, the current work I have, maybe I can go through. Recently I am studying autonomous and connected vehicles, and like how we can use them for maybe managing traffic. So I'm just searching for, with my students and with my collaborations, like how we do this using new techniques like deep learning or data analysis. So this is an advanced topic that we're doing. Also, some of my work, by the way, I'll give you some of the examples, so I'm just summarizing them. So some of them are related with traffic engineering, that is traffic control using simulation. So we create scenarios and we create some control methods. So using those control algorithms, we check what happens when we implement this in real life. So we use paramix, Transcad, any microscopic tool for the simulation. So one of the current work we did was, I think it will be presented in a week or so in MTITS in Poland. This is the evaluation of the delays due to road closures on arterials. Basically, we had real-time data, but also we did some data collection and offline data collection, meaning that we had some volunteer students observing the accidents, observing what the duration of these accidents and how much a distance that they occupy. So using those information, we did this analysis, and then we determined we also did this impact of road closures in arterials in Istanbul. The data consists of the time and duration of the closure, the length and average speed of the upstream and downstream queue created by the closure, number of lanes in the initial conditions, and number and position of closed lanes. And in the analysis, it is observed that the data gathered from the off-peak traffic consists of two clusters. So off-peak gave us some different measures. And the clustering is performed using hierarchical clustering with Ward's method, and the number of clusters is determined considering the silhouette scores. So this is basically giving us the idea, by the way, the one this on the right-hand side. So the appropriate amount of clusters is determined by looking at the average silhouette values for different cluster counts. And these figures shows that using two clusters is an adequate decision. Well, we also checked the difference. So difference in the distribution of delay and closure durations for the clusters were also interesting. We visualized them. And based on these statistical tests, applied to these differences were significantly, statistically significant, and also, oops. So the findings show that the classes are statistically significantly different from each other in the aspects of delay and closure durations. This gave us the idea that by looking at the type of the delays based on whether they are in the peak and off-peak, might give us some further studies, like give us some clues for the further studies. And this is one of the oldest studies, but currently it's being used in Istanbul. We have lane control systems. I don't know whether you have it here or not. So we place it like a reversible lane implementation. So sometimes if the road infrastructure is not enough for, let's say, 2 directions, or if you would like to manage the traffic for different time durations, like let's say off-peak or peak hours. So what you do is you place these lane control systems on top of these lanes, and you might just, let's say if there's an incident, you might say, okay, just change your lane before some distance so that you have homogeneous, speed, so that you don't have stop and go traffic or you don't have secondary accidents. So this is very important, and we use it effectively in Istanbul. Oops. So, by the way, this looks like this. So we have this lane control system, and for each of them, we can give information for changing the lane, we can give information for the speed limits, you can do the dynamic speed management or incident management. Let's say if these lane control signals are placed, with some distance, like uniform distance, ahead, then you can give information to the drivers, and they can manage their speeds. So let's say this is the sketch of the network, and the vehicles are traveling from this location to this location. Let's say if there's an accident here on this lane, oops, it's moving on its own, by the way. If there's an accident, let's say in this location, by providing information here through these arrows, you can tell them to change lane or just do not use this lane with a cross. So this study, let me just give you the outcome of this study. So this doesn't have any sanction, meaning that drivers are free to obey these lane control signals. And the interesting thing from our work was that if the obedience rate is 30%, the system was optimized. Meaning that we don't want everyone to follow this, signals. Let me tell you why. If let's say you give this information to, or let me just go back to here. So if you give information, let's say if this lane was closed, then you would tell them to stop using this lane beforehand, right? But if some of the, disobedient drivers use this lane, they're kind of decreasing the travel time, right? The delay. So therefore, we use this to our advantage and said that 30% is the key number, and also there were similar studies which were giving the similar outcomes. So another study was, well, by the way, this is the comparison of these scenarios. So we had 141 scenarios. So meaning that the location of the accident was changed, and we have many other stochastic changes, and based on that we have this improvement, which is almost 20%, that's 16.76% decrease in the average travel time, and also we have increase of the average speed by 20.19%, which is quite high when you compare such congested networks. Let me just give you one story. So when I was first giving the lecture for the admission to the university as an instructor, so I said, like with this implementation or with implementation of, let's say, ITS, I can reduce travel time 5 minutes per hour. And the guy said, like one of the professors said, like, I don't care, like 5 minutes, it's nothing, right? But when you compare this to the year, like with so many vehicles, then it's huge. So having less stop and go traffic, having less congestion, and maybe decreasing the delay by 5 minutes per vehicle helps, right? So this is important. And also we have studies in sustainable transportation planning, where we have applications of transportation demand management, strategies in sustainable transportation planning, carpooling, car sharing, and ride sharing topics. So, well, in Istanbul, maybe in any city, the ride sharing is not favorable, I guess, because of some issues like safety, or maybe you don't want, as a driver, you don't want to get delayed, or you might have some other issues, which, you know, in our studies we found out. For instance, some people don't want to have a rider with him if, you know, that rider has a different political views. He doesn't want to take this person in. So there are such, you know, interesting issues with the ride sharing. So that's why, you know, we, you know, dealt with it, and we just had a research on that. So we found out that, you know, there's a room for, you know, ride sharing, but, you know, we have to tackle such barriers, such social barriers. So we also did this for the universities as well. So we did some questionnaires, and like, if think about ride sharing. So if the security is the problem, so you just provide some solution to people. Let's say, if, for instance, you do this ride sharing for a close, you know, community, let's say just you know, university workers, then would you accept this, or would you be able to, you know, drive? Would you be a driver, for instance? So we just asked such questions, and at the end, our outcome was, well, nobody was in favor of it. So there were many issues, you know, with that. So we had such reports. If you're interested, they're also listed in our website. So regarding the travel behavior, we did this, as I said, to the university campuses. So we collect information from the university. They were very eager because they would like to solve this problem. If you remember one of the first slides, there I mentioned that there are many personal shuttles. There are many shuttles in traffic. So our purpose is to reduce the number of traffic on the land, you know. So my aim in one of the study was finding the addresses of the, you know, staff of the university, and then diverting them into the rail system. But when I divert them, if they are not close to the rail system, just provide them the ride using ride sharing. So we did this analysis, and it was very, you know, interesting, and people were into it because, you know, it would be faster. So I also did the propose the university administration that they might have a, you know, agreement with IETT, and it might be maybe free for the, you know, workers, free for the staff, the public transportation. So we did this. So attributes that influence travelers' ride-sharing tendency can be broadly categorized into three groups. Again, we did this for the socioeconomic and travel and ride-sharing characteristics. So this was one of the study. So this is one of the outcomes that is listed. So we asked some questions, and based on that outcome, the distribution of total travel times and total travel costs for one-way trip to campuses of respondents obtained in the study, and they're statistically reviewed. And there are 89% of administrative staff and 48% of students paying less than 1 Turkish liras for trip to campus, meaning that they're very close by. So in this context, public transport is a very affordable alternative for these respondents, and this outcome makes ride-sharing ineffective in reducing travel costs, because they can use public transport. Why do they need to travel with their car? So it can be interpreted that the cost of travel within the city are not necessarily shared by people, as in long-distance travel between cities. So, as I mentioned, for ride-sharing, the most important thing was the safety. So safety is the issue. So if, you know, we would like to do some analysis, some real-time analysis with the ride-sharing applications, so we have to consider as a company, if we are a ride-sharing company, for instance, the safety issue for the users. So we also did analysis for the tendency for ride-sharing, and again, we found out that the safety is the issue. As I said, we have so much data. So the GPS data is a lot. So we have millions of big data, and we did one study, actually a lot of study on this GPS. So use data mining, map matching, data aggregation, and traffic data analysis. The reason is that this, as you know, this GPS data is not accurate. So if you collect this information, you might not know in which roadway this vehicle is in. So therefore, you have to use some map matching, algorithms to fit this, vehicle. So you know that these buses have a specific line, and they have they have specific bus stations. So using those information, you can just, trace them in a network, and you can have this, using GIS tools, you can place them. And so what we did was, this is an example plot. Of course, this is very small, but this is an example plot of a bus. So its longitude and latitude, and we have from this, we have its stops, and we have the, I can't see, I'm sorry, but like we have the speed and stops of these buses. So basically, in any of our study, we collect this data, and then they give us through a private API. So we work on it, and then we make the visualization, and from the visualization we do the diagnosis, and then we do the analysis for our study. So this is, by the way, a large version. So this is the speed of a bus, and this is the, let me see, I'm sorry, this is not visible. So this is where they stop. So this is the duration of the stops. So using this information, we can, based on this information, we have the information for any bus in this fleet, their longitude, their latitude, their speed, the time that they stop at the bus station. So using that information, we selected for one study, one route, let's call it 30A. It's not a random selection, by the way. We selected a route that is passing through different types of roadway, and that experiences different type of congestion. So this is near seaside, you see. So near seaside, we don't have many lanes. We only have 2 lanes. Therefore, it's congested most of the time. So this is the arterial, and it has a peak hour, congestion. And this is a freeway, and we have also some local roads here. So you see all type of roadways are connected here. So it's a 11.6 kilometer ring route. And between 2 densely populated areas, namely Mecidiyeköy and Beşiktaş. Beşiktaş is where Boğaziçi University is in. So it's the county. So consists of a variety of traffic density areas, number of lanes, and majority of the bus stops are located in 3-lane road. And we inspected that 35% of them are in 1-lane road only, meaning that it's more prone to congestion. And 40% of bus stops have separated pocket, meaning that the congestion that this bus creates at the bus stations is kind of reduced. It's not that, well, it's not impacting that much. So more than 13.3 thousand people on the average, 622 people per bus stop are using this bus route monthly. So we obtain this information from IETT. So we have an access to all types of data for our use. So we did this after the analysis. We did this for every bus station, every bus in the route, and you see at every bus stop we have these, stop durations. So this was interesting. So I started thinking of this, evaluation of bus dwelling patterns using bus GPS data, and we have some current, publications. So the idea comes from here. I thought that, in the literature, people are just worrying about the time it takes at every bus station, right? There are many studies regarding like how many minutes, how many seconds a bus stays on bus station. But there were no studies, and nobody was thinking like how this bus affects near the bus station these traffic, because there are many things involved, and And we did so many analysis and we did so many publications with that. And one of them was this one especially. I'll go through the slides, but let me just explain the idea. So we were looking at, let me just show you these. So after the analysis, this big data analysis, we saw that there are many shapes of these dwelling patterns, meaning that the time it takes for these buses, their profile is different for different bus stops. So I was like talking to my assistant. I said these are different, like by visual inspection, and these are just here. So there must be something that makes it different. So what is it? So it's definitely the bus stop properties, right? So by just looking at the bus stop property, you might say that okay, this has some outlier effect. Then what we did was we did this for all the buses and bus stations, and then by just observing, because the frequency was every 16 seconds, so we have this data every 16 seconds, and we observed that by just drawing this line at 5.9 km per hour, we can say that we assume that for 1 second, if the speed of the bus is less than 5.9, we can assume that it's stopped or stopping. So using this, we just plot this dwelling time versus the time here. So we have observed that here we have more outliers. So bus operation hours starting from 6 a.m. and there is not much data after midnight, by the way. And this data is smoothed with this local polynomial regression fitting model. And this surface, polynomial surface, is fit using this local fitting, by the way. And the most of the data between 1 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. in this x-axis. And the box plot on the y-axis shows that. So there are outliers after 50 seconds of dwell time. So after 50 seconds dwell time, we can safely say that there are outliers. So mean of the data is at 5 p.m. as you see, and on the time axis, and 15 seconds on dwell time axis. So we have the mean data. As I said, we did this, visually inspection, and we observed these two types. And then when we separated them, we observed that these are the outlier bus stations. So we created a data matrix. So some of my students, they volunteered happily. They sat down and just, through Google Map, for every bus stop, they created a data matrix. So in that data matrix, we have all the properties of the bus stations, like is there any signal, traffic signal, is there any intersection, what are the number of lanes, is there any pockets, so what is the distance to this disturbances. So we had all this information in a data matrix. So using that, we created this clustering, hierarchical clustering, and you see we have these 7 clusters. And as I mentioned, this data matrix, so we just gave also the demand of each bus station. So because I think the most determinant effect of the bus station, the most determinant effect of a bus station nearby traffic is the demand. Because if so many people are using that bus station, that means the bus have to, the buses have to wait longer times, and that's a disruption to traffic. So we also took in that into consideration. So at the end, we realized that these outliers that we detected are providing a cluster. So meaning that we don't need GPS data for detecting such bus stations. So basically, in that study, we did aim to find dwelling patterns of the bus stops from the bus trajectory data, and to correlate these patterns with the bus stop features. And we use clustering with complete linkage method is used to find similar clusters. And since bus stop characteristics are affecting bus dwelling times, the dwell pattern of a new bus stop can be predicted by just comparing dwell patterns of the similar bus stops. So we don't need the huge data. By just looking at this information, we can decide where to place these bus stops so that it doesn't affect the traffic in a maybe adverse way. So the analysis can be implemented with more features and using other clustering methods like for instance, whether there's a grade in the roadway. If there's a grade, meaning that the bus has to slow down not because of the traffic, but just because of the grade, for instance. So there are many elements can be implemented. So as I said, I have travel behavior research. So we did driver's route choice behavior on the real-time traffic information and the effect of real-time travel information on activity-based models. Basically, we have traffic applications, so we had questionnaires on these applications and asked people like whether they change their behavior based on these applications, and we had some outcomes. And also we modeled travelers' decision-making patterns on freeways as a result of the provision of various types of real-time traffic information. Also, some of my current work is in airport ground access and egress modeling, because it's a burden to traffic, because most of the people, when they are accessing airport, they would like to have a comfort. So meaning that instead of using public transportation, they would like to use their own car. So that's adding to the city's transportation burden. So what should we do to decrease this effect? So we did that, and we also have this for our airport, and then we realized that some of the parameters are effective in this travel behavior, and I can summarize with my new paper. So I did it in the previous version for the access, and did it for the second paper for the egress. So as you may guess, for accessing airport, time is important. So people are more willing to pay more for the access. But for egressing, time is not that important, cost is important. So people don't care about, maybe some portion, like we have some portion of people that cares about the comfort no matter what. Because think about it, I mean, you have kids and everything, and you just arrived and you would like to go home as soon as possible because you have kids maybe crying and want to reach. So we have this group of people, but other than that, some portion, a nice portion, is interested in the cost when they are egressing from the airport. So this is very important, because by knowing this information, you can implement something real time by affecting their choices in traffic. So that was it. Thank you. Thank you for your any questions?
Other questions?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, if you could go back one slide
Sure.
to the
One slide?
airport. Yeah, exactly.
Where did I?
Okay. Yeah, because I was wondering, in Germany, at least for airports, the model is becoming more and more common where people actually drop off their cars at the valet service and then...
Parque, right, yeah.
Yeah.
So they also implemented in Istanbul. By the way, I have a publication in 2018, I believe. This is also related to airport. So what I suggested was, instead of having these vehicles in the traffic, we have in Istanbul more than 100 shopping malls, a lot of them. And anybody has an access to these shopping malls. And these shopping malls have huge parking lots. So what I suggested was, I want people to maybe just walk, or somebody drops to the shopping center, and then from those shopping centers there might be some ride sharing, or maybe car sharing companies that you can just use those vehicles with other people and go to the airport and take other people to the shopping malls. So this is what I suggested, and I think they use it in in Germany. And after it published, I think in May, they had some kind of implementation which is very similar to that. Yeah. So my idea is to reduce the number of cars in the system, because ITS, Intelligent Transportation System, is by definition using what you have effectively, that is using what you have to have a transportation that is effective and safe. Now, if the system is failed, I mean, if the system has so many vehicles around, what are you going to do? I mean, let's say autonomous vehicles. It's the answer. So if there are so many autonomous vehicles in the system, then you'll have autonomous vehicle congestion. So there has to be some kind of a management strategy. I mean, people everywhere say autonomous vehicles. I always whenever I have this topic comes, then I say okay, but it has to be shared, and even if it's shared, we just have to decrease the amount of car usage. We have to increase the effectiveness, the performance of the public transport. For instance, I proposed to the university this using the rail system. I said, okay, you can talk to the officials and just make this public transportation for free. So if, let's say, some person has an access to rail system, they can just go and use the facility and go to the university, because we have at the entrance a metro station. So just at the entrance we have this metro station, meaning that we have to use it. But when I talked to IETT, they said the capacity is not enough. Meaning that if we transfer all the people to rail system during peak hours, what happens? It's a disaster. So basically we have to have other ways of dealing with this problem, meaning that people shouldn't have the need to travel maybe more often. Maybe we can have new cities, integrated cities, where your house is near to your work. By the way, I have a house which is on the Asian side of Istanbul, and I'm renting my house, which is 1 minute walking distance to my work. Because I hate transportation, I hate traffic, so not transportation, but I hate traffic. So I'm a transportation engineer, but I don't want to just drive my car whole, like every day for 2 hours, because that decreases my lifespan, I think. Seriously, I mean, you just get so angry. I mean, people, driving carelessly or like driving slow or driving fast or disruptively makes you, angry, and your standard of life is decreased because of that. So I don't want to just, spend my time in traffic. So I have this, house that is rented. Although I have a house to myself, but that's what happens.
More questions?
Yeah, actually, I have another part. You mentioned earlier that IETT had some problems because the regulatory part, which I could organize and plan the entire system, wasn't separated from the executive part, which runs the system itself. It's separated in Germany, but I'm not sure. Like, what do you really see the drawbacks from not having them separated?
Yeah, the drawback, as I mentioned, is, well, if you are the person who determines the rules of the game, and if you are the player, then there's a problem.
So you mean that the rules aren't made in a way that causes an optimal transport experience, but it's rather convenient for the authority that...
That's one problem. Another problem is, I don't want to say mafia, but if, let's say, people, I mean, the private companies are earning from this, let's say, this service, with years they gain, power, and with that power, it becomes, like for any country, I guess, it becomes hard to, regulate them.
You mean that IETT is influenced by the contractors they hire?
Sometimes it's hard to, regulate them. I think it's a global issue. I mean, they just gain the power, and it's kind of becomes tough to regulate them. Because what I know is that, so let's say the half of the buses, belonging to IETT, and half of them are private. So what they do is they give, because this transportation is a public service. So the aim is not to have a profit. So what they do is, if there are lines that makes less money, these lines are taken by IETT. The lines that has more ridership and gets more money are given to the private companies, so that they have the motive to use this line and give their buses and their service. So there are lots of issues, but these issues are in, I think, most of the countries. It's a global issue. So there are issues with having a monopoly, and there are issues with like having this liberal system. So it's very different. So we have these Uber in the system, which in Turkey it's not legal. The government says you are illegal. So what would you do?
But it still happens, even though it's illegal.
Yeah, there are people who are using it, but it's illegal. Because they have to pay tax, but it's not, shown, so it's, interesting.
So they operate that?
Yeah, they operate. But they have a huge pressure from the, taxi cabs, taxi drivers.
Is it same price? Same.
I think it's more expensive.
More expensive than...
More expensive. But the thing is, the users would like to have comfort. They would like to have nicer cars. They would like to have, well, what would I say, like a respectful driver. So for those reasons, they are ready to pay more.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are the reasons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Because in Uber you have BMW and nice cars, you know, like, but in the others you have the, you know, like oldest cars available.
Yeah. Do you have any measure in the university to encourage students to take the public transport instead of the private car?
Well, we don't need it because based on the questionnaires I have done like in many years, most of our students residing nearby the campus, like 90%, almost 90%. So they are just, you know, staying nearby, like me.
10 minutes, but walking, car?
Just walking, sometimes
Walking.
2 minutes, not just 10 minutes. It's sometimes 2 minutes walking to the department. Yeah.
So they didn't even try. They didn't even try
They don't
to
need
live
it.
far away from the...
Because of the congestion. I mean, if you have like morning classes, you don't want to be late. Because even the minute, you know, changes your time of arrival. I used to stay. By the way, let me show you. It's very interesting. Let me show you the map. Oops. So my house is here. My house. I used to stay here. So our school is around here. So it takes, if there's no congestion, if you're taking your private car, it takes 4 to 5 minutes. But during congestion, there's this connection here that connects like the Mecidiyeköy part and this Barbaros arterial. So this is having a huge connection point. Huge congestion and connection point, and because of that we experience like hours of delay. So let's say you start your journey at 7 a.m. but 9 a.m. you're still there. So it's very congested. So what happens is instead of having this, you know, congestion, people prefer locations nearby school, or if they cannot, you know, maybe afford, what they do is they stay around Mecidiyeköy region where there are metro stations. So from using metro station, they can, you know, reach faster. And the housing prices, in almost half of it. So nearby the school, so they just share the rent, you know, like maybe having 4 or 5 students. So it's, you know, kind of cheaper for them. So, or they stay around Mecidiyeköy region.
So to me, this is like, you know, for me, we are in the step right before where we are. So for me, here in the city, we have like the perfect storm just getting ready. So we have an increasing number of vehicles every year. Our you know, ring highway, which was like a super useful infrastructure before, now it's getting more and more congested, more and more frequently. So we are in the verge, as I was telling you yesterday, we are in the verge of the equilibrium. So it's about to
Anytime soon.
Yeah. So also we have you know, our administrative leader, so politicians. I hope there's no one. So they have you know, they have good ideas, but they don't implement them very wisely. For example, they decided to all of a sudden they deployed lots of kilometers and kilometers of bicycle lanes, taking space from private vehicle roads. So I mean, we are kind of. I'm happy that you're here and we can talk and we can continue the conversation later, because it looks like this is what will happen if we don't stop it now. And we do have a serious problem in the Canaries in general on the use of private vehicle, because it's very, very you know, engrouped in in the culture of mobility here. So I think we have like a 90% or something of private mobility, maybe on corporate.
We are around 85 to 90.
How much?
85 to 90%.
Okay. So not much, but quite worse than some other equivalent cities in Europe. I mean, so and also on the other side, it looks like public transportation is not still it's not yet an affordable and convenient alternative to it. So also we have the university here producing lots of programs at peak hours for our classes. So this like everything is ready to break down. And so I'm happy that you are here and we can keep on talking, because maybe some of the imaginative ideas you have in the disaster situation that you have in Istanbul, which is awesome, we can also start implementing here in an early stage, I guess. So appreciate it.
Well, thank you. By the way, the thing that increases my creativity is the experiences, the torture that I have experienced in Istanbul. So this paper, whatever paper I have, they're all from experience.
Yeah.
So I experienced this, as I said, like I'm living in Actos, so I used to sleep. So if, let's say, I start my journey at 7:59, I'm good. If I start my journey at 8:01, I'm late. I arrive at 10. If I start my journey at 7:59, I arrive at around 8:50, 8:45. So it's a huge problem.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I had another case. Let me just give you that example. So in one of the papers, was just because of a person that I know. So there was this guy whom I know, a friend of friend. So he was searching for a job before the like the soldier, the army duty. So the job that he's supposed to work is starting at 7 sharp, 7 a.m. But he's leaving. By the way, the job is in Boğaziçi University. He has to open some building at 7 a.m. But he's living in the Asian part. So we are in European part, and he's living in the Asian part of Istanbul, far away. So he has to take 3 public transportation modes to arrive at that location. We did all the computation. We used applications, everything. The earliest that he can arrive is 7:25. He does everything, but he can start anytime. Let's say, by the way, the rail system starts at 6 a.m. That's the main problem. So if it started earlier, he could have, reached earlier. But because of that, he has this problem. So my paper on this was connectivity versus the congestion mitigation. So to reduce the congestion, by the way, it's in Turkish, so that's why I cannot, send you. But it was basically this. So connectivity is important for the people living outside the city, the central business district. But how about, like if you would like to decrease the congestion in the city, but not taking care of the, people, coming from the different locations, the, further locations, then how would you be equal? The equity issue. So this guy cannot work. So the solution comes to the integrated cities. This is what I suggest. So we have to have integrated cities where you just walk or use your bicycle for reaching your destinations. That should be the future, I think. Instead of having autonomous vehicles, connected vehicles, it's just, like some, temporary remedies, right? But I would just, strongly suggest having, like, communities, like integrated communities, where you can reach anywhere, like shopping malls, like your school, whatever, so that, you have the, comfort. This I tried in my, real life. So I'm renting my house, so which is close to my working place and my kids, school. So it's kind of a, win-win situation. Sometimes I make fun of, my situation to my students. So they say, oh, I spend like 2 hours in traffic, and I say, oh, sometimes I spend like 10 minutes in traffic. I'm going mad, you know, like I'm so so frustrated for, you know, spending that 10 minutes, you know. So they just, you know, look at me, you know, in a angry face. So it's kind of a solution for me. I don't know. I think this is the future. So this I suggest for everyone.
It's fun that autonomous vehicles, they were thought to come solving every issue, but regarding congestion, there are now studies that are even worse than humans,
they are the
because they have larger safety margins and they are more conservative than regular humans. So
also, think about it. If, let's say, you don't have a driving license, you don't know how to drive, or if you're disabled, you'll be also using autonomous vehicles. That means you have more, you know, autonomous vehicles in the system. So, like, how are you gonna, you know, solve this? I mean, are you gonna have like flying autonomous vehicles, or even if they are flying, then the view of the city would be horrible. I mean,
but they have to be collective, autonomous and collective.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.